welcome to Chow with the Chowdhurys, where we're always spilling the tea. My name is Priya.
And my name is Mahfuz.
So what are we spilling the tea on today, Mahfuz?
It just so happens that we've achieved our 1 year anniversary. And I thought, what better time to get together and kick off this show by recapping our first year of marriage, which I think may surprise a lot of people with how difficult and challenging it can be sometimes, but also how glorious and amazing it can be. And I'm so excited to dissect our first year together to hopefully share some things that other couples can learn in preparation for their first year in marriage. Let's start with our burning question of the day. What are we having today?
We're having a chai tea latte. Look out for that at Priya's Kitchen in the not so near future. How are you enjoying yours?
I'm liking mine just fine. I happen to put it inside of my favorite mug, the Llama Stay mug, which, if you look closely, it's a llama meditating, which very much speaks to how I'm feeling at the moment. How about you?
Well, I have my favorite All You Need Is Love mug. And I don't know if you remember, this is a present that you gave me from your first solo trip by yourself after we got married without me. So that was actually already a milestone for us because I don't like staying in the house alone by myself. So,
And see how adorable that owl is? But you know what I really love is if you turn it around, look at that little tail. Look at that little owl tail. How adorable is that? Almost as cool as a Llama Stay mug, but adorable nonetheless.
I love it. And it has my brand colors for Priya's Kitchen. So, you did it right. You picked the perfect little mug for me.
And this beautiful set that we're on, people are wondering, are they in an Instagram palace? Are they in a restaurant or a lounge in Miami right now? How on earth did they get a set this great? And this happens to be our beautiful home. And I'm incredibly proud of the home that we moved into. But it wasn't very easy in the first year, Priya. I sometimes find myself needing a specific type of space. Being a heavy introvert, I sometimes need the private time. And I sometimes need activities that I really like to geek out on. And I thought it would be very difficult. And admittedly, some of the early months, it did feel a little bit difficult. And I realized how important communication had to play a part in our relationship. When people say, you need to communicate with your partner, we hear that all the time. I never truly understood it until I understood that it's not just about transparency, but it's about willing to have a two-way communication about the things that work and don't work so that both of you can find a solution that doesn't actually feel like you're compromising anything, but you're finding a way to complement each other. And I thought it was incredibly valuable that we were able to do that together in the first year.
And communication doesn't always mean just saying the right things. It also means actively listening and seeing and gauging what the other person has to say. And I think that's what builds your relationship and builds the trust that you have within each other, because not only are you just replying to what the other person is saying, but you're actually taking the time to understand what they're saying instead of just replying for the heck of it. So I think that is something that we had to learn early on, right? Because I'm just not good with my words as good as you are, right? Like, you know how to phrase something so beautifully that I'm just like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? So I'll eventually get to my point, which is probably what I'm doing right now, but like in a lot of words, whereas you would give a compact, concise answer or like even like a reply where it's like everything is just nicely, like it's like a present, it's like a literal present I'm receiving. But yeah, so that's something that we had to learn, right? Like you learned the way that I communicate by your active listening.
For the record, I think you're beautiful at communicating. I think that you do such a good job in getting your ideas across that not only do I understand it, I get excited about the things that you believe in. Like you think about how many initiatives we've done, right down to this beautiful set that we're on today, was all done by a vision that you created and threw out there that made us both excited about bringing it to life. Even right down to this show that we're filming together. It started off with a thought, then we communicated, you got me excited with your ideas, and we're here today. I didn't think we'd be doing it in this setting, and I'm so excited, and I'm so glad we did, because otherwise it wouldn't have looked nearly as good with what I had in mind. And the thing about communication is everyone has a different way of communicating. the important thing is that we're both lovers of learning. And as long as you're a lover of learning, you're going to be patient enough. And you're going to think about, how do I slowly figure out what the other person is trying to say? How do I ask more questions if I don't fully understand? How do I make sure that I get what I need from that conversation so that you're not relying on the person having to craft their communication perfect every single time? And I think that's a big part of what partnership is all about.
Definitely. I love that. You're honestly my biggest cheerleader. And I think that's what's important in a marriage as well. Like, we're always just rooting for each other, just even with our hopes and dreams, and just to be at our ultimate best and our ultimate happiness. I think that's what we all want out of life. And something that really helped me to connect with you early on in our marriage is that, like, we defined what happiness means to each of us. And, everyone has a different type of happiness. It could be, well, another person could have, like, the impact that they make on the world, that is their happiness. It could be so many various things, but we sat down and, we spoke about what happiness means to each other, and it was different, but we came to sort of like, I wouldn't really even say that we're compromising, because we didn't compromise. We're just helping each other to be our happiest at all times. That's what really helped us, because we're really just like ultimately working towards the same goal, right? Which is to be happy together, and, to be happy with everyone that's around us and in our beautiful home that we built together.
You're right. You're right. And they say you can go faster alone, but further together. And I truly believe that in a partnership. We just came out of a tremendous book launch event. As I released my newest book, it has to be one of my favorite all-time memories. I don't think there's a lot that will happen in the rest of my life that will not keep this memory somewhere in the top 7 memories of my life. And I get a lot of credit for that, because people see me in front of the room, people see the talk that I deliver, people are seeing my face in on the promotion, I'm the author of the book, they get to meet me, and it seems like Mahfuz did it all. And I was very insistent on making sure that I was loud about what a role that you played. You want to talk about the cheerleader aspect? The amount of things that you've done that allowed that event to become one of my top 7 memories of my life is unreal and hard to put into words. I called you my creative director, and it bothers me when you laugh and say that I didn't do anything at all for this event. You did everything. When you think about all the beautiful settings, the brand red and white being spilled all over the room, whether it's in tablecloths, the red carpet, the easel, the sign, the canvas sign, the way that we've set up all the cards and the books, the way that the books were laid out and fanned, the way that we had the screen ready to go, the playlist that you built for that event that people kept bragging about, it was all you. It was all you. And if it was up to me, and I know this is true, because 8 years ago when I released my first book, it was up to me. And all it was a beautiful looking slideshow, nothing else. The auditorium looked pretty decent on its own, so it did its part, but it was just a slideshow. When you add the pre-touch to anything, it makes it look so much more beautiful. I saw it at the book launch, and I saw it on our wedding day. And it's not just the cheerleader that you are. It's the person that you are that is sweet and pure on the inside that really, really, genuinely wants to see me win. And I don't just see that in the setup. I see you present at the day of the event, greeting every single person that walks by you, smiling like your bubbly self, adding so much positivity to the energy of the room that it clearly became one of my favorite memories of all time. And being able to see both of our parents in the front row as I'm delivering this talk and seeing them tear up and then run up and hug me at the end of my talk, I don't think there's just anything like it. And I owe it all to you. And I don't just mean the event. I owe you so much for what you brought to the Chowdhury household as the individual you are. When I married you, Priya, I knew I was getting an amazing wife, but I didn't realize that you were also going to save my relationship with my family and truly allow me to love beyond just what I understood love to be. You, through example and by demonstration and daily practice and the effort that you put in, made it so easy for my parents to want to love harder, made it so easy for me to want to spend more time with family. And if that's not the definition of a perfect partner, I really don't know what it is. It was such a beautiful bonus when I saw in our first year of marriage how much more I got outside of an incredible wife.
That's so sweet. That's so cute. But I'll say it again, for the book launch, I really didn't do anything. It just all came together so nicely, and I'm so happy that I could play a small little part of just like attending the event. Everything else just really just came together, and it wasn't just me. It was like so many other people had their hand to play with the book launch. You were phenomenal. Like, oh my goodness, that that standing ovation was, it was very much needed because you were amazing. And everything with your family. I love your parents to death. They are amazing people. And, I just, this is sort of off what we're talking about our marriage, but I love how our parents are with each other. Like the relationship that they have together. I think that's something that I've always wanted. They really love spending time with one another, and, you know, they have so much to say to each other. Like I feel like sometimes I'm just looking at them like, what are they talking about for so long? Like it's just so nice to see, like, even between our dads, the relationship that they share between our moms, and just like the four of them together. And marrying you gave me that. Like, my parents were so important to me. They gave me the life that I have, and bringing that with you with your parents, it's just so nice to see. Like, I love every bit of whatever we have. It's just really nice.
Well, my friends, it is getting extremely cold in here, and we did expect it as we're going to continue this conversation as the sun sets. So we're going to take a brief intermission as Priya puts on her lovely blanket and I throw on a hoodie and pants, and we're going to resume. So we'll be right back. Okay, I am hoodied up, and the fireplace is somewhat doing its job, but man, is it getting beautiful outside. Priya, I think this is a good time for us to take a look at some of the questions that were being asked from our community in preparation of chai with the Chowdhurys, and I'd love to take a look at some of them.
I am cozy as well.
So one of the questions that, hope you had a long time to think about this. I mean, you had an entire year. What is your favorite memory of our first year of marriage?
Everything that we do obviously is a memory to me, and just spending time with you every day is just amazing. I really enjoy my time with you. So I don't have a specific memory. Like, I don't know if that's bad, but I do want to say, like, a memory doesn't have to be like extravagant, or like it could be just like the little mundane moments, right? So, at your book launch, I was asked like, how's wedding life, or how's marriage life, how's married life, and I said it's amazing, and they sort of asked why, and what I said was, I love the mundane tasks that we do together, right? Like, one of my favorite things to do is when we have our morning routine together, right? Like, I used to have a morning routine when I was living with my parents, and now we combine that morning routine together, and it's so beautiful. You go to the gym, you make coffee for me, and then I wake up, and then I sip on my coffee until you come back, and then we spend time talking about the day, about things that we have coming up, what our day looks like, as well as just like anything and everything, right? And I think that really makes my day have a positive start, because you're such a positive person yourself. Like, there is no room for me to be grumpy or moody or anything. Not that I am, but like, just start my day with the positivity and like just a breath of fresh air. Kudos to you, because you go to the gym almost every morning, so you come back with that like positive energy.
Come back shredded, ready to take on the day, ready to bicep curl.
Of course.
Whatever the world throws at me.
Yeah. Exactly. But when you're moving, you're just in a happier mood anyway. So that would be it. Like, our mornings together. It's not a specific moment, but I think it's one of my favorite tasks to do with you. So it makes it one of my favorite every day.
It's interesting because mine isn't that different either. I grew up in a household where I spent a lot of my time in my little tiny room, doors closed, to myself, and usually a lot of my mornings would be spent in quiet time and not a lot of chatting and not a lot of high energy stuff, more about maybe my mental health or wellness. And a lot of my focus would be going into that. But what I love about the way you and I live together is we have a TV up on our wall. And I remember when we first talked about getting a TV, I was like, Priya, I never watch television. Like, we're never going to touch it. What's the point? And we decided to get this cute little frame TV up on our wall. And the amount of times we find ourselves using it in the morning just to grab our phone and project our music up on the screen and start dancing just to get our day started. I think about the Mahfuz of that version versus the Mahfuz in the quiet room, and I love where our life is headed. I love how our mornings get started, and it gets me so, so excited to take on the day. The amount of calories we probably burn from dancing, we probably don't even need to go to the gym after that. It's so much fun to start off the day in that manner. I remember that before we got married, I used to see a lot of relationships in a bit of a tragic state. They either didn't seem like they loved each other or respected each other. I see couples that break apart. I see couples that don't really live up to what I thought marriage would look like. And it used to stir me away from the idea of marriage for a very long time. And I remember when you and I officially made it official, there was a decision that we made that we were going to be a couple the way we want to be a couple. That we weren't going to follow any rule book or YouTube tutorials or any classes that teaches you how to be a partner to your partner. And we decided we're going to figure it out our way. And I couldn't be more grateful that we do it that way. That we figure out how to love each other the way we're meant to be loved and how a relationship is supposed to be, not based on what we saw in our life, but more what we want it to be, and really shift that needle 1 month at a time. Pia, I remember that when we started hanging out with other relationship friends and a lot of couples that were either married or in a long-term relationship, a lot of them started sharing their experiences. And I got to tell you, it's a bit of a relief because sometimes you go through hard days or hard weeks or even hard months in the first year of your relationship, and you think you're the only one because every single time you open up your phone and you're scanning the feed, everyone is bragging about their partner or they're on the next trip, and it's all sweet, lovey-dovey moments. And you think, like, am I the only one that's having bad months? Are we that broken? And it leads you down a very, very dark path. And the more time we started spending time with other couples, I started to realize that this is far more common, and they are very open to talk about it when they realize that they're not the only one that was at risk of drowning. And what gets talked about is very interesting, where people talk about how the first year of relationship is hard. The first year of marriage is hard. And you have to figure out how to navigate through those to figure out how to get out better on the other side.
No, yeah, definitely. I get that because, at the end of the day, Instagram, social media is a highlight reel, right? And people are not going to take a video of them fighting and put it up on their social media necessarily. So, yeah, like as much as we are talking about all the good times, there have been difficult and hard times. But I think like what's important in those times is like how you come out of it, right? Like how, again, takes us back to communication, like, and that active listening, that and those true like honest conversations that we had to have in order for us to overcome those situations. Like, we both came from our past where we were, we didn't live with anyone before. We were living with our parents. It's a difficult phase to transition into, right? From being single to being married and moving in together, setting up a whole life together, like a lot of the things we still had to go and grab. We had to make a list of the things that we needed to get us prepared to be living in this home, food, etc. And that could be scary sometimes because, you wake up and you're like, you have everything at the touch of your hands, but then now you really have to think about what you need in your life in order for you to be truly happy with the other person, right? And that could be things like, even like bed sheets, for example, toothpaste, things like that, that that was needed, right? Why I'm saying this is because it takes me back to the first day that, not the first day, I think like one of the first days in our first week together here. And, you always wake up in the morning having eggs. And I only have coffee in the morning. I don't necessarily have breakfast. And your dad used to make you sunny side up eggs every day in the morning, such a sweetie. And I never used to make anything for anybody in the morning, you know. And I and we woke up and I think like you wanted eggs and I'm like, okay, sure. And then we were and then I think it was a working day, so we said that sunny side up eggs was too time consuming, so we just wanted hard boiled eggs. And the way that I like my hard boiled eggs was different from the way that you like your hard boiled eggs. Like I like them a little bit runny, and that's what I made for you. And you were like, and when I gave you the hard boiled eggs, you were like, what is this? And that's what I mean. It's just, and it didn't necessarily get us into a fight, but it was sort of just like you were confused, like why would someone make their hard-boiled eggs like this? Whereas, I actually enjoy my hard-boiled eggs like that, right? So it's just those things, like little things like that could easily become larger things. The patience that came with us trying to figure each other out and understanding each other, I think that went a long way. Just understanding that we're just two people trying to live together, trying to intertwine our lives together without really understanding like what it really meant before we actually got into it, right? So I think like the patience obviously played a really big part, as well as the communication piece, as well as like, just being okay with the fact that, the first couple of months are trial period, right? Like you're just learning and you're just absorbing the knowledge, right?
I really love how your example of conflicts that we had was as small and mundane as runny eggs versus non-runny eggs. And it's important to note that. People say, what is that hard thing that happened in your life? What is that moment? And people expect something extravagant. But the truth is, it's a lot of those, a lot of small, those things that add up over time that start getting you frustrated. And you imagine that you and I are people that lived completely different lives in completely different types of households, in completely different neighborhoods with different people and different friends. It's very understanding that when you two come together, there is going to be some things that don't satisfy both people and some things that are going to seem weird, like runny eggs. And as a result of that, it's going to result in conflict, especially if you're communicating. It's definitely going to be out there that something is being done that's not being received well. And I love that you went right into patience. I remember when you and I went down to Toronto's Muslim Rib Fest that happened last year, and we took our family with us. And I remember as soon as we walked in, we got pulled aside by one of the content creators that was producing content for the Rib Fest, and she started asking us about our relationship, and very quickly realized that we were newlyweds. And she instantly started getting excited about getting our story, and she started asking us a lot of questions, and one of them was exactly that. What do you need? What advice do you have for other couples that are maybe about to get married or newlyweds? And interesting enough, I think communication and patience were the two answers, which is learning to communicate and give it time to breathe so that you could allow the other person to figure it out, or you could allow yourself to figure it out, but you don't have to do it alone. And it gets really exciting when you figure it out. And sometimes the frustration makes you lose sight of the beautiful, positive, great things about your relationship. Whenever I have those difficult days, especially multiple difficult days in a row, my mind goes back to the very beginning of my speech that I gave you on the day of our wedding. I said, I've been looking for you for so, so long. So long. And it reminded me how hard I fought and how much I worked on myself to truly deserve someone as amazing as you. And I realize I lose sight of that over these little mundane things that build up over time. And it makes me reframe my outlook on our relationship and take a step back and realize how many beautiful, amazing things are there. And it makes it a lot easier to become patient. It makes it a lot easier to have healthy communication rather than toxic communication, which could also happen when you're just lashing out at each other. And it makes me realize how much I love you. And it's on days when I'm not with you, whether it's because I'm on a work trip or whether it is just spending a few hours away from you, where I miss you so freaking much. And all I can think about is how often I see you every day, yet I still want to run back home and see you once again. It's in the non-existent of us being in the same room that truly makes me realize that. And it makes me more and more excited when I get back in the same room with you again. And when you start looking at it from a macro scale of all the reasons we agreed to get married to each other and all the ways we promised to love each other, it makes it so easy to overlook those mundane things or deal with it in a much more healthier way. And I couldn't be more proud of where we are today. I remember that we used our 6th month as an opportunity to check in with each other as a husband and wife. And I imagine that this is something that we're going to carry on as a tradition so that you're not waiting for an anniversary to being like, how are we doing? Because a lot has happened in the last 12 months, but at least a 6-month check-in. At most, a 6-month check-in, maybe sooner. That allows you to just be like, hey, let's have an honest conversation. How am I doing as a husband? How are you doing as a wife? What more can I do to help you be happier? What's changed, and do I need to be aware of it? And I think those healthy conversations really allowed us to feel comfortable opening up to each other, realizing that we're not being judged or we're not feeling the heat as much as I am right now beside this amazing fireplace, but realizing that we look for each other's best interests without a shadow of a doubt. It makes it so much easier to grow together, and I couldn't be happier to grow with someone like you.
Oh. And same goes for me. I've been looking for you literally all my life, which is actually something that I said in our wedding speech too. And I love how we both said that in our wedding speeches. And, you know, we actually didn't speak about our wedding speeches to each other until we actually gave our speeches.
As we should.
And yeah, and I actually wrote my wedding speech on Noon Tells You, my sister, like on the way to the venue. And I was like crying. She's like looking at me, driving me to the venue. And, you know, it was really nice how, you know, we're basically, without even sharing what we were saying to each other, we basically said the same things. At the end of the day, it's really just embracing our differences, just with our unique quirks, right? Like, so for example, me with my runny eggs and you with your hard-boiled eggs. And I think that's what's really important, you know, just really being there for each other and celebrating each other and being their biggest cheerleaders. And just, you know, everyone keeps on saying communication, you know, but truthfully, they're right, you know, like as I grow older, like I realize like all of those like Instagram quotes and things like that, like I finally understand some of them now. And I'm like, yes, like I'm getting older and more self-aware. Before I didn't understand that, like, you know, I just didn't find them relatable, but now, you know, I can relate to them and I can understand them. And this communication piece that everyone keeps on talking about, you know, I understand it much better now. And, you know, also with the true, honest conversations and also for embracing our weirdness together.
And there's a lot of weirdness in
yeah.
our relationship. Priya, as we finish up spilling the tea all over the place, man, has there been tea spilling left, right, and center. What is a tip that you want to give newlyweds or people that are about to embark this journey of the first year of marriage? Is it the same thing that was asked and answered at the day of the Halal Rib Fest? Or do you feel like now that we're past the 1 year mark and you're looking back and giving it a hard reflection, do you feel like the answer may be a little bit different?
Before I answer, it's just so funny because I actually also wanted to end with this question. And, you know, for those of you that are listening or watching this, we actually didn't even talk about this episode at all. We just like put on our videos and we're like, okay, let's run with it to see what comes out of it, you know?
Air 5.
Yeah.
That's an Air 5 moment.
We had like questions that people asked on hand if we needed to get to it, or if we had the time to get to it. But yeah, so that's actually really interesting. But yeah, a tip, yeah, I would say like the biggest piece is like have patience. Like you are two people that that had different upbringings, that has different hobbies, that has different likes, you know, that are different age perhaps. Have patience with the other person. You know, obviously you came together because you liked what the other person has to offer, and you know, you two came together to make something beautiful together. So give that person the patience that they deserve to really transform into probably the person that you fell in love with. There is, you know, I remember when we moved into this home, you mentioned to me that it doesn't really feel like a home for you because, you know, for you, a home is, I don't know, whatever, like, you know, more furniture or whatever the case may be. Or maybe you just need to live in the home a little bit longer, right? For me, it felt like a home right away, you know? Where there's a bed, it feels like a home. Well, like, not truthfully, but, you know, like, just home for the time being. And that's what it is, right? Like, give patience to your significant other because, you know, it might take them a little bit more time than you to adjust into things. And, you know, give space for those hard conversations to take place, right? Like, so again, yeah, it goes back to patience and communication, right? Like, figure those things out from the beginning. And, you know, and I'm not saying that you have to get it perfect because God knows that we didn't from the get-go. It was a work in progress, and it's still a work in progress, right? Like, we're still learning so much about each other a year in. And I think that's what's fun, right? Like, you know, you get to learn new things about your person. Like, every day there's something new. Like, I'm still learning and I love it. It's just like, just new influx of knowledge about your significant other. And I think that's what keeps it interesting and makes it interesting.
And I wouldn't have it any other way. The ups and downs of our relationship, as I said in the book launch keynote event, that things really didn't go as planned, and things are so much better because it didn't. It's those necessary steps in our bad days, in our so-called bad days, that allowed us to become better and be more loving to each other. And I can honestly tell you that if I went back, I wouldn't change a thing about our first year. I think that I'd be too worried that if I changed even a minor piece of an experience that we had together, that it would create a whirlwind that would completely change where we are today. And I'm at my happiest place today, Priya. I'm at the happiest part of marriage as we are embarking into the second year. And I couldn't ask for a better partner in crime. I don't know if people cheers with their chai, but after an amazing conversation like this, I want to cheers with my chai. So if you could hold your mug up, I want to wish you a happy anniversary, baby. It's been a hell of a ride in year one, and I wouldn't do it with anyone else. And I couldn't be more excited for what year two has in store for us.
Well, Mr. Chowdhury, it's been a hell of a ride, but I'm so excited for year two and the rest of our life together. Good vibes only, like what this says.
Good vibes only.
And yeah, I'm just...
And namaste to all the ones stressing out there.
And all you need is love.
Cheers to that. I love you, baby.
Love you.